Hey guys, I'm here with Erik Peabody, also known as Viking Guitar. He's going to show us his REAPER setup for audio and video on stage.
So I'm a metal guitarist, and I play with a full band, but we're spread across the country. So a lot of times when I perform solo. And when I perform solo, I use REAPER to handle every other aspect of the performance outside of my own guitar playing. So REAPER does all of the audio backing tracks, all of the visuals, and it also sends a bunch of patch changes to my floorboard, which is a Pod HD 500, so I don't have to be tap dancing around while I'm playing guitar. So this is the session, and we'll go through it step by step. I have two channels here that are sending out audio, and this just goes out of the laptop stereo output to the house system. All of my backing tracks are in mono, and I have them set up on two tracks, so I have a couple of instances where audio from one continues while audio from the next song will begin. I have markers at the beginning of each song section, so I can just tab left and right through them. As you probably noticed, there's a lot of video game music here. And one thing that's really cool about this is I've turned off the peak display under the REAPER settings. So when I'm looking at this thing, whether I'm near the laptop or all the way across stage, here we go, display peaks for media items right here is turned off. If I am 20 feet away from this thing, I can look over as I'm navigating marker to marker and immediately tell if I'm at the right place or not. Now I have a USB foot controller that is mapped to the bracket keys and to the enter, start, pause key. So I can control all of the REAPER navigation that I need to remotely while I'm at the mic, in the middle of performance, whatever I need to do. All of my backing tracks are in mono, which I personally prefer because it means that no matter where anyone is in the audience, they're hearing the same thing. If they're on the far right corner of the stage, they're not hearing certain harmonies that the other audience members on the other side are not. So that's it for the audio. My video is set up across two different tracks, and I'm sure John will have thoughts about if I have this set up properly or not, but it works for me. REAPER runs video on a track hierarchy similar to most video editors, where something on a higher place track will supersede something on a lower place track. So for the entirety of the session, I have a static image of my logo. So if I'm between songs or something like that, it's not just a black screen. Synced up with the songs are the actual video files. I do not have the video split from the audio. I just have the volume on the video track turned all the way down. And if we pull up the window here, you can see as I arrow around, it's playing different parts of the relevant video for that song, including this amazing picture of Conan. So one other thing I do is in the REAPER video window here under options, I can set it to full screen. First, what I do is I connect a HDMI out from this laptop to whatever the display system is for the venue. I move this window to the other display and then full screen it. So what I'm looking at is just the REAPER timeline with my images for the media items and stuff, and then all that everyone in the audience is seeing projected against the backdrop on the stage is just the video window full screened. So they're seeing what I want them to see, but I still have access to all of my extremely technical details here that are absolutely relevant for the performance. One other thing to mention is that these images are assigned to, like I said, help me quickly recognize where I am in the project file as I navigate through the timeline. And you can set those under item settings, item notes. In here, you can load a JPEG image and then set how you want it displayed. If you want it to not display an image, to center and tile it, full height, or stretch. And I'm not too finicky about these because all I need is some quick visual reference to make sure I'm in the right place. It doesn't have to be performance worthy for the audience to see or anything like that. Just so when I'm navigating through, I can glance over at the laptop screen and make sure I'm about to start the correct song. Down at the bottom, I've got a folder track that sends some automation to my pod. And there are 3 different types of automation I send. First off, at the beginning of each song and during any relevant time changes, I send a tap tempo to the pod. So what'll happen is it changes the repeating delay, things like that, so it is always synced up to what the backing track is doing. Second thing I do is I have a separate channel here for full patch changes. This is if I'm going from a clean tone to a drastically different, crunchy tone or something with wildly different effects on it. And this is just set up as a single MIDI item with a bank program change. And I put one of these at the beginning of each song after the marker, but before the audio actually starts. So I'm sure that it recognizes and applies the patch change before I have to start performing. And then the third thing I have is an effect toggle here. And this just turns on and off certain effects within each patch. I have one button on my pod mapped to basically switch from a dirty rhythm sound to a dirty lead sound. And all this does is turns on or off delay, chorus, and a touch of reverb to make things stand out a bit more. It also boosts the volume a bit. So as you can see for this song here, as we look at it from the beginning, I've got the initial setup where it sets the tempo, it sets the patch I want, and does any effect change I need immediately. And then as we progress through the song, there are subsequent effects toggles throughout and a few patch changes in different parts of the song. So what I can do is I open this up, I make sure that it's everything is set up properly with it reading the MIDI output device, have everything linked up to my pod, and I have the project saved at the very beginning of the session. So I can toggle over to the first marker, which is my sound check, perform that, and then as I'm ready to actually start the performance, all I need to do is hit the proper button on my USB foot switch to navigate over to the next song, and it goes from there. I have a good chunk of time between each song because in the heat of performance, I sometimes forget to turn off the playback after a song, so I want to make sure there's plenty of time where I can do a quick changing to my tuning or crowd chatter or something like that without the next song just starting as I'm unprepared for it. This whole thing is pretty easy to use. It didn't take too long to set up once I figured it all out. In fact, my laptop died last week and I had to set up this new version on the fly, and I got the whole thing done in just a few hours. This is built for about 11 songs right now and is easily scalable to include more or less. I can set up regions for certain songs if I want to quickly rearrange the order of where they go. And it's just one other example of why Reaper is the best and most versatile digital audio workstation I've ever used.
So thank you so much for showing us this really cool Reaper setup for your Viking Guitar music on stage. Where can we find you online?
So my main website for mixing and mastering is www.vikingguitar.com. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter under Viking Guitar, and you can email me at vikingguitarproductions@gmail.com.